Broadway grosses for the week ending June 8th. This is the first week after the Tony Awards have happened from a reporting perspective, but not from a grosses perspective. Remember, this is the week ending June 8th, technically the second week of the new Broadway season. These grosses ended on Sunday when Tony Sunday actually happened. So they don't take into account any boost that we might be expecting from some of those shows that had big wins on Sunday night. In fact, some of the shows only did 7 performances, like Death Becomes Her. Sometimes because the casts are performing, they'll take off that Sunday or try to alter their schedule. Maybe they take off the Sunday, they do another performance during the week. The weekday performance is never as strong as the Sunday. So grosses are a little bit depressed because of the adjustment in the schedule. Overall, for last week, we did see a massive increase from a year ago, 36% up. We know why that is. Last couple weeks of Othello and Good Night and Good Luck. I'll give you those specifics in a second. A gross total of $45 million, almost 2% up from the week prior, but again, a whopping 36% up from a year ago. As I mentioned, the last weeks for Othello, it did $3.8 million in that 1,000-seat theater. The last week of Good Night and Good Luck, their grosses started with a $4.3 million. So as these shows, of course, reach their end, there's always a little uptick, and those shows that have been unbelievably successful definitely saw that. And Glengarry did $2.3 million. And then, look, we're seeing some really great numbers from some of the other shows and some great momentum. Look at John Proctor doing $773,000 last week on a real upswing as they headed into the Tony Awards. And then, of course, Maybe Happy Ending hitting their stride with $1.159 million. This is before the Tony Awards. I'm very excited to see what next week brings for them. And a bunch of the newer shows sort of seeing some boost, again, heading into the Tonys as a result of the buzz building, all the articles about the Tonys, and all the advertising they're doing to try to win those Tonys. Buena Vista doing $1.2 million. The news was not all great, though. A lot of the longer running shows took a hit last week, and we saw some 6-figure declines from a bunch of shows. Why is that? Again, with all the news, with all the awareness about those shows nominated for Tonys, that's where all the business goes, right? If you're in town, you're hearing more about Dead Outlaw. You're hearing more about Death Becomes Her and Maybe Happy Ending. So you're trying to go see those shows. They're advertising more. There's just more buzz. So if you're a longer running show, you're going to take a hit during this time period. I know when I'm producing shows around this time period, and if I'm not in the race, I try to go quiet because there's not much that I'm going to do to be able to convince someone to come when they want to see the new stuff. But overall, a very strong start 2 weeks out of the gate for this Broadway season. Next week, we lost a couple of those long runners, as I talked about. I think we're going to be a little down, and I don't think it takes someone who's been in the business a long time to be able to figure that out. But I'll be back. I'll tell you, hopefully it won't be too much of a decline, although I am predicting one. But hopefully we'll see a bunch of big upticks from those Tony wins. See you next week.